I don't know if it's because of laziness, if it's because of incompetence, if it's because of some anti-Denver bias, anti-Sean Payton bias, but there is something that nobody in the national media is talking about when they are talking about these Denver Broncos, and we have got to break it down in this video. If you're new to this channel, my name is Ben. I'm a diehard Denver Broncos fan, and if you love the Denver Broncos, it helps me out a ton if you would like and subscribe, and if you don't, get on out of here because we don't need you. We'll see you again in the playoffs when the Denver Broncos are there. So when you take a look here at PFF's ranking of different positional groups, the one that really jumped out at me and just made me like straight up angry was looking at how they ranked the wide receiver room. And you got to scroll like a long time. I know I have a really bad hand injury, but this is getting ridiculous to scroll this far to find what I actually think is a really, really sneaky deep room. And you find the Denver Broncos as the 30th ranked receiving core in the entire NFL. And they first start saying they ranked us so low because one, Jerry Jeudy is gone. I think Jerry Jeudy leaving this team is the best example of addition by subtraction that you could possibly find, and the Cleveland Browns are about to find that out the hard way, that he is a me-first guy, and he is going to corrode the entire culture of that Browns locker room if it hasn't gone far enough. It's going to be such a bad culture that Deshaun Jackson's going to have to spend extra time at the masseuse just working that out. But they're saying, first off, Jerry Jeudy not being there is a bad thing, and then saying it's Courtland Sutton's room to command. We know they already are sleeping on Courtland Sutton, even though he's caught passes from nine different quarterbacks over his time, had how many different schemes, how many different head coaches and offensive coordinators, and he's a lot better than people think. And then they're sleeping on Josh Reynolds, even though we know how much the Detroit Lions loved him and he's a glue guy. Troy Franklin, and then Marvin Mims as a deep threat option is all that they said, and we're going to break that down at the very end here. But the thing that they are totally, totally sleeping on, and I had forgotten just how great this cat was, is the rebound of Tim Patrick. And I know before you tune me out and say oh, he's two seasons of injury, there is some proof here that if anyone in the entire NFL can come back from debilitating leg injuries, it's him, because he's done it before when he was in Utah. And we're going to talk about that in a second. But all reports out of Denver, and this is from denverbroncos.com, which a lot of times kind of hedges and doesn't go out on limbs and say stuff because they don't want to create any drama in the locker room. There are a couple lines in this article that just had me totally, totally jazzed because you can just see how important this guy is going to be for the Denver Broncos. So first off, Tim Patrick came out and said, "I feel like myself again. I feel twitchy. I feel like I'm already running at full speed. I feel like I was where I was 3 years ago right now." We saw how hard he worked. I remember when Von Miller had his season-ending injury, and he talked about how hard of a mental struggle that is, and how he didn't even want to be anywhere near other players because it got him down. And I just remember at the end of last year seeing Tim Patrick in a hoodie on the sideline with an earpiece in, and it takes a special type of player to be that bought into your team that you want to do that. And so that right there taught me everything that I needed to know about him. But looking here, he switched from number 81 back to number 12. Well, when he was playing for Utah, first off, he was like a walk-on on Utah. He played for a JUCO. His parents both were incarcerated at times. He had a very, very tough life growing up. So he's got the resilience and the tenacity there that a lot of NFL players don't. He had an injury so bad when he was at Utah that he couldn't walk for 4 months. So it wasn't one of those ones that was filmed and you watch, but my guess is this was the bone broke and popped out. But he had an injury so bad he couldn't walk for 4 months. And so that is when he switched in college from 81 to 12. And you go from not being able to walk for 4 months to all of a sudden leading the Utah Utes in receiving, and then getting off of practice squads and then becoming the Denver Broncos number one receiver when Courtland Sutton was out. It's just phenomenal what this cat is actually capable of. And if you look at him, all the pass catcher, he's caught balls from Case Keenum, or as John Elway called him, Case Keesum, Joe Flacco, Drew Luck, Teddy Bridgewater, Brett Ripien, you remember him, and Brandon Allen, and then went to that wide receiver camp with Russell Wilson at one of his San Diego homes. So this guy has been around the block and shown that he has the resilience to just be nasty. So take a look here. Try to, as I'm talking about why I think Tim Patrick could be so nasty, try to like notice all of the dudes who he's catching passes from, and it's just a trip down memory lane. One of the insane things was the year that he had 71 catches. He and Larry Fitzgerald are the only players in NFL history to be targeted on that many passes and have 0 drops. So 0 drops on 71 catches is just, or 71 targets, I believe, is what he ended up having. Almost, had he played the whole year, he would have been on pace for 1,000 yards, but I believe he did not start cracking that top rotation until Courtland Sutton was out. But I know it's easy to just sleep on him because he has missed 2 years with injury. But like, just look at this guy. We've seen the work ethic coming back from that type of injury in college, and him being on the sideline and working through this injury now. And now just hearing that he feels like he is exactly in the place he was when he's putting up this kind of production with 0 drops. I just could not be more hyped to have him back. So the fact that he does not even make PFF's like breakdown of our receiver room, and it's like Courtland Sutton, man, I hope he's back. I hope we figure out how to make it work with him. But even if not, like, Tim Patrick is the dude, and if he is healthy, is a top receiver in the NFL. And I think the stats prove it. And I think the big question mark for sure is his availability, but it seems like he is back and better than ever. And he's got that big Tim Patrick energy, and Timmy's back, guys, and I think that is something we should all be extremely, extremely hyped for. The other thing barely mentioned in PFF's breakdown here is it says Marvin Mims. Well, first off, it like goes on and saying like, hey, the receiving room, it barely mentions our dude, and then it's like, oh, but their running backs can kind of catch it. And it's just like, that's a subtle jab. Like, our receiving room just 3 years ago was the highest paid in the NFL, and we have almost all those guys, but we got rid of Jerry Jeudy. I just think we took a giant step forward there. I do agree the Los Angeles Chargers, who for some reason PFF is picking to win 10 games. Tell me how that is possible in a world where you pick us to win 5 games. Like, their receiving room actually is garbage. Ours is not. But one of the things they barely gloss over here is saying that Marvin Mims can be a deep threat receiver. Well, the fact of the matter is that our Marvin Mims is way more than that, and I think we're going to see that this year. So taking a look back here, that I think the thing that we really need to take note of is Marvin Mims had 22 catches on 33 targets for 377 yards last year. So he averaged 17.1 yards per catch, which is huge, and only didn't come down with the ball 10 times. Like, if you extrapolate that out, that is insane production. And then if you look like right here, it was after that Chicago comeback victory that something kind of switched and we stopped targeting Marvin Mims. But it's like, at this point, if you just take like these 3 games right here and extrapolate that out and replace him for Jerry Jeudy, he is our first 1,000-yard receiver in like who knows how long. And so I think you cannot just gloss past this wide receiver room. I think it is so much better than anyone has given us credit for. My question for y'all in the comments is, who do you think the Denver Broncos who will be our top receiver when it comes to yards this year? Do you think it's going to be Troy Franklin? Is he going to step in and kind of break the mold and actually be a rookie receiver who has all that chemistry right away with Bo Nix? Do you think it's Tim Patrick coming back and like being that leader on the field? Do you think it's Marvin Mims like stepping in? We heard Sean Payton multiple times say like, hey, I messed up with Marvin Mims. Like, we needed to get him the ball more, which is why they moved on from Jerry Jeudy. He made the Pro Bowl at one position. You imagine that's going to translate other places. Do you think it's Courtland Sutton? Do you think it's little Jordan Humphreys? Like, our receiver room is so much better than they're giving us credit for, and it's just one of those other things that we will all keep receipts and be pumped when they are wrong about it, because there is a ton to believe in. Oh man, that ball is an oversized ball and the ceiling's low.